Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Crooke and Candle podcast. And before we start the podcast, I actually wanted to do this before. Now, if there's anyone who complains about this, I'll make sure to not do this anymore. But I wanted to plug our social media stuff as well as where you can find our podcast if you want to listen to it on your podcast distribution of choice. We are on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify. And we also have social media so you can stay in contact, DM us, comment on our podcast and whatnot on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, and all the links will be in the description of every episode. So it has the link to all of them down below.
Yeah, we want you guys to be able to find us easy.
Yeah.
And share with your friends and family and all that. And yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to do that at the beginning of the episode because I have a feeling there's a good amount of people that listen to the podcast that don't make it all the way through because we always do our plugs at the end. But I wanted to try it at the beginning to see if that changes anything. So, again, I don't like doing plugs a lot of the time. It gets in the way of the actual content of the episodes. I understand. But we need to plug our shit.
We are everywhere. Crooke and Candle.
Yeah, Crooke and Candle. You can find us.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, with that out of the way.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Oh, man. So, anyways, how was your week and all that?
My week was, had a couple days off at the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
What is today? Saturday?
Yeah, it's Saturday. Tomorrow's Sunday.
It's normally my day off, but I ended up working today. So I'm going to try and be on top of things because after you work all day and I think I tend to like the, doing the podcast in the morning when I'm fresher.
Yeah.
But I'm a man's man. I can do this. I can do this even after a good meal that I just cooked.
Yeah, yeah.
And a little bit of
whiskey. Not a little bit of whiskey.
Just loosen things up.
What's the whiskey we're drinking? Monkey Shoulder?
Monkey Shoulder.
Yeah. It's a Scotch, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty.
But yeah, other than that, I had a pretty good weekend. I heard Monday it might snow in Seattle.
Really?
I heard that.
Okay.
Let's cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen.
Well, I'll be curious what happens if it does snow because, yeah, I'm curious how that would affect my whole work situation.
Well, I don't think it's going to be like a snow.
I mean,
hopefully.
But
what I heard was we might get a little snow on Monday.
Yeah, a little snow is not bad, but like if it's a lot of snow, like yeah, that'd be a problem for sure.
Normally, when it really snows here and shuts down the city for a week, that's like normally like January, February.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've had pretty heavy snow out during the winter.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like climate change is a real thing.
We won't get into all of that.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, like the last 2 years it's been pretty snowy and it is what it is. We live near the what mountain do we live near? Rainier.
Mount Rainier, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember when we used to live by the university and we can go to the UW and there's that one near the library.
Yeah, where you can see it.
Yeah, and there's that like a straight shot.
Yeah.
And you could, it's really beautiful sight. If you ever do come to Seattle and go to the UW, there's this specific part near the Red Square.
Yeah,
and you go towards the fountain. Mm-hmm. There's this just beautiful shot where it's just you see the mountain, especially when it's like summer and stuff like that when there's no clouds around. Really beautiful scenery. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, well, it's good to hear that your week was good. My week was fine, except I actually put the starving artist. So, long story short, I ended up making some bad decisions, and I am broke until payday. So, unfortunately, I had to eat all your eggs.
He ate all my eggs.
Yeah, and
he cooked eggs, and I'm like, that smells good.
Yeah,
I go to look for the eggs. I'm like, where the hell? What the?
Yeah, and I will fully admit, like, because I should. Here's the thing. I know what some of you are gonna say. Why didn't you just ask for his eggs? I was embarrassed because, and here's the story. So literally last Sunday, Like I had like $20 left.
Ouch.
Yeah, $20. And now this was
until when?
Until like next
Wednesday.
Week. Next Wednesday. Because I get paid every 2 weeks. So it's bi-weekly. So and then like that week I got paid, or the week I got paid, I had to pay my rent. And then I think I had other bills I had to pay too. So like by the time I was done paying all my bills, I had like only $150 or some shit. So yeah, it was tight money, and I just made a lot of dumb habit decisions.
And this is why, as an artist, you can end up in that starving artist category. Mm-hmm. Kids, pay attention to your money.
Yeah, don't make dumb decisions, because what I ended up doing was, because I've had this habit where when it's the weekend or when I have my days off, like every night I would go to, because there's the Shell nearby our house. Mm-hmm. And so I've been going there all the time, which, by the way, that was a dumb decision because
and the Shell is like, it's almost like a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it basically is like a 7-Eleven, but you can get gas.
We live right next to it.
Yeah, we live right next to it, so it's super convenient. Mm. So I would just go there to get food and, dog food and toilet paper and all that stuff.
And alcoholic
beverages. It's like literally spitting distance from where I live. Where we live. And so I've made this bad habit of going there, getting drinks, like, getting those like surges, those White Claw surges, like the 8%ers, like get 2 of them, drink those back to back.
That'll help you make a bad decision.
Get some junk food, and then which that's like what, $15 altogether or something like that, with all the junk food and shit. And then I go later on, I'm like, I want 2 more. And so I go there, I'm spending more money. And Sunday I did that. And I ended up like spending all my money. And I knew it was a bad decision.
Once I found out that he'd eat all my eggs, I pretty much was like,
why is everyone so fucking stupid?
Yeah, but you know what? The funny thing is, when you ended up in that situation, I was like, "Don't worry. What do you need?"
Yeah,
because I've done these things myself.
I'm just glad that you were more understanding and you didn't like. I mean, you did give me shit, but it wasn't in a like a Barbie stabbing way. Like you're trying to be mean about it.
No,
because actually, I don't want to.
We're family.
Yeah, we're a family, so we understand. But like growing up, like with she who will not be named, I'm just gonna keep her out of it. But like when I was with her, growing up, she like I would hesitate to ask her for stuff, because when I ask her for stuff, she would get pissed at me.
Yeah.
So imagine how that affects a person growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. I try not to ask people for shit.
Are you talking about Cthulhu Mom?
Cthulhu Mom. Yeah. Monster from the deep.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, the stories of like, hey, Dad, can I borrow 25 cents? He's like, let me tell you about when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah.
I had to walk to school in the snow, uphill, both ways, back and forth.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you grow up and you're like, I don't want to ask people for shit. And to an extent, I feel that's somewhat of a good thing, but it's also not a good thing. And I'm also a Leo, so I'm a very prideful person. I don't like to ask for help.
Mufasa.
Yeah. Mufasa. I try not to ask for help. But that's not always a good thing. And definitely that gets me in trouble.
Well, I was reading this 101-year-old guy like made a list of things that, for young people. And one of the things was, he said, if help is offered, accept it. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people have a hard time accepting help because of their pride.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll keep you fed, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's the Christmas season.
It's the Christmas season. It's the time for giving.
If I don't give, I will go directly to Hades.
Yeah, and I need to pay it forward. I eventually I need to pay it forward. So, you know, that's the one. And that's another thing why I like I've always when I was I want to say like when I was I moved out to Portland. Mm-hmm. Like I was a lot more stingy with taking shit from people and giving shit to people because I don't didn't want to give my own shit to people because it's like, well, it's my shit. And then, you know, on the other hand, it's like I didn't want to take people's shit because it's like I don't want to have to owe them shit. Mm-hmm. But I had to change my thinking later on, you know, because it's like the reality is now, yes, there are definitely some people that will use that against you and will like, you know, do the list of shit. Like I did this for you. I did this. And that's the shit I hate. I can't stand that when people do that. You know, it's like, but so that's,
well, not everyone does that.
not everyone. Certain people do.
But you know, this is something that, because this is something we could work on. Mm-hmm. I know you're getting paid soon.
Yeah.
I want, because I'm going to go get my first Christmas tree ever. I've never had one. And I want you to at least spend $25. You got to get me a gift. You got to wrap it. You're going to put it under the tree. And
Okay.
I'll get you something because I've never done this with you.
Okay.
And Christmas morning, we'll open our gifts. It'll be very interesting because I've never actually done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to really think long and hard about what I need to
Not too hard.
Actually, no, I think I know what I can
Dude, you could give me a $25 candle. I'd love it.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I wanted to, because like one of my because I told some of my people the people that I work with about the podcast, and someone actually asked me about the name. It's like, what does Crook and Candle mean? And I'm like, that's a good point. I don't even know what it means. So I wanted to ask you, what the fuck is a Crook and Candle? Like, what is that exactly?
Well, the crook, you had the crook and the flail, which was Egyptian.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, like if you're on stage doing a comedy bit or whatever, and you were bombing, remember the big crook would come and they'd pull you off the stage.
Okay.
But it was really kind of like based in my love of ancient culture and kind of mysticism and stuff.
Okay.
So the crook and the candle, and you know, when you're doing magic or whatever, you light a candle, you know.
Okay. And is the crook the thing you put the candle in?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
It was in ancient Egypt. They had the pharaoh a lot of times in this the statues. They will be crossing their arms and they'll be holding a crook and a flail.
Okay.
But really, it was between those things. I was like, oh, a crook and a candle, crook and candle, crook and candle, kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. It's just
Okay.
I like the way it sounded, you know, and it really kind of, definitely has something to do with like, as an artist, and a lot of artists are like this. They get into kind of the more esoteric parts of life because you're really living differently than the majority of people.
Yeah.
You know, and so artists tend to, when they're doing art, they'll put little Easter eggs in their art, if you will. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it has to do with mysticism or the occult or whatever you want to call it, the hidden knowledge. And that's kind of where it came from, Crook and Candle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that answers that question.
We're not witches or warlocks, but, you know, I have an interest in that stuff, so that it just sounded good.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that answers my question. So,
and there was a period of time when I was homeless and I was a crook. So it all lines up.
So I guess in a way you can take the name a little bit more literally.
Yeah.
Or I mean, well, actually, Crook in that case would be Crook,
yeah,
not Crooke.
yeah.
So, but whatever.
Well, okay. Here's something. So, like, you have numerology, and so Trejen. My given name is not Trejen.
Right.
My given name is not Trejen Antaeus.
Right.
I chose that name for myself, and I've always wanted to. I was born in 1971, and my name was Jason. It wasn't just Jason, though. It was Jason Jamal Jennings. So 3 J's. And when I was born in 1971, Jason was an incredibly popular name for boys. So I think at 7 years old, it was the first time I my mom took me to Marie Callender's, and we were sitting there, and I remember going, I want to change my name. And she said, well, what would you change it to? And I was like, I don't know, like Mark or John or something like that. And I'm like naming books of the Bible because I was raised real religious.
Right.
But, I wanted to be different.
Right.
In that case. Being
yeah.
different because of the religion I was in, I didn't really like that. I wanted to do stuff with other kids. I wanted to be able to go to birthdays. I wanted to be able to go to a Christmas dinner and so, and I couldn't do any of that.
Right.
I have a question for God.
Oh, fuck. Oh, wait. No, I didn't play the whole thing. Let me do it again.
I have a question for God. Why?
Shout out to Filthy Frank.
Oh, that's a good one.
I miss Filthy Frank. I wish he did that shit still. But yeah, well, he's successful as a fucking musician, so good for him.
But yeah, let's get back to my name. Just really quick so you kind of understand the way my brain works. So, JJJ in Latin, well, Old Latin, because eventually Latin, they made the J. But before that, it would be the letter I. So I, you actually put Roman numerals I. It's three. So Trey or Trace is 3.
3, yeah.
And then Jen is Jennings. And then the last name Antaeus, it's where we get the word anti. It was a Greek word. The Berbers used it, or I think there was an actual African kind of god, Antaeus, who was undefeatable. But then, as long as his feet were touching the earth, and then Hercules picked him up and destroyed him. Well, that's the bad part of the name, but yeah,
right,
but it really it's someone who stands against, and I've always felt like I'm standing against the normal way of being as a person, because there is the kind of normal path to living and getting a job and going to school, and I've went the total opposite way. While being told that I'm not allowed to do this and you can't be an artist, et cetera, et cetera. And I was always like, if you tell me that I have to do this and I'm not allowed to do this, I will do the anti. I will do the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's where we get anti from the word Antaeus, or the name Antaeus. And so that's how I ended up with my name.
Yeah.
And Crooke and Candle, kind of similar thing.
Yeah.
I take the way my brain works, I take, different ideas and merge them, which most artists are really good at doing.
Yeah, it's a fitting name too. In fact, like I've said this to you before, but I've been considering changing my name too. Because I wanted to. Because I think you even suggested, like, well, why don't you change your last name to Antaeus or whatever? I'm like, all right. Well, I would need to think of a good first name. In fact, I want to put this to the listeners / viewers of the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you can give me a good name in the comments, I would be interested to see what you guys come up with. So if you can come up with something good, I'll make sure to give one of you guys a shout out, and maybe I'll use that as the name.
Yeah, and actually, if you're going to do it, and you give a good name,
Give it some good thought.
Yeah. But tell us why. Where'd you get the name from? Where does it come from?
And don't send any troll meme fucking meme bullshit like butt face or dipshit fuck face like
Oh, we're probably gonna get a couple.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna get some trolly comments if we do get any, but yeah, like give it some good thought. Whoever comes up with the best name, I'll definitely give you a shout out.
Yeah. So
let's move on to the topic for the episode. So,
well, first I got to ask you.
Okay.
Because what we wanted to talk about was kind of what makes, what do you think makes a good artist, an easy upbringing or kind of a hard upbringing? But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about this the other day, and I was like, when was it? Can you name, like, pinpoint the moment in time where you said to yourself, I want to be a creative person, that I want to make a living being a creative person?
Right.
Story time.
Yeah, story time. So that's the thing. It's like I can't pinpoint the exact moment in time where I made the decision to become an artist and be like, oh, I want to try to make money doing this. Because I want to say I was on that path like early on, but the moment I feel that made me cement that idea into my head, that made me really want to do that, was the story that I mentioned in episode 4, where Cthulhu Mom came into my room one day because like this was during, and I'm kind of repeating this story, but I'll try to abridge it. So basically, story goes, I was living in my mom's apartment at the time, and I quit my job from Panera Bread because it was fucking terrible. That job, that company is terrible. In fact, I was surprised at how many people I've like read reviews of, like on Glassdoor, of people that worked at Panera Bread. In fact, there was a person I worked with in Portland that actually did work with Panera Bread at one point, and I told them the story about it, and they're like, "Wow, that's like the exact same story of like my experience." Like, I'm like, "Wow, is this really a common occurrence?" Yeah, sure enough, it is. Like, Panera Bread is really awful. Don't work there. It is so pathetic how they treat their employees. Anyways, tangent over on that. So I quit that job, and so I had to look for other work. So I was living rent free at my mom's place, though I was paying rent to my mom
While you were working.
While I was working,
Yeah,
but I wasn't working at the time, so I wasn't paying rent. And it's like I definitely tried to throw some money and support where I can. It's like I'm not a dick. Like, I don't want to just live, under a roof without paying for it, especially as an adult. Like, that makes sense. So it wasn't unreasonable for my mom to expect me to pay rent. But she really got on my ass, and it was just getting to the point where she was just, just being a bitch about it. And so one day she comes into the room, she's like, you haven't found a fucking job yet, blah, 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 that kind of shit. And I'm like, on my bed, on my laptop. I don't know what I was doing. I think maybe I was drawing, like with my Wacom tablet, my Wacom Bamboo, or something like that. Because I was looking for jobs, and a lot of the jobs I was looking at was stuff I didn't want to do. A lot of the work that I was looking for, I just didn't feel passionate for. I didn't want to work in the food industry. I knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to wait tables. I didn't really want to cook. Although I ended up doing that in some capacity or another. In fact, I'm working at a restaurant right now, so there you go. But yeah, so like I just didn't feel passionate for the jobs I was looking at. I was just going on like Craigslist and Indeed and all that stuff. And it's did I say I was going to bridge this? This is going a lot longer. I'm sorry, but
deep.
whatever. But
It's
whatever.
the whiskey talking.
Yeah, it's the whiskey. So, anyways, fuck it. It's our podcast. Well, I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And
I do what I want.
I'll do whatever I fucking want. And so she eventually, like, she's going on this rant at me. And then she asked me point blank, what do you want to do, Jordan? And I think about it. And I think about it really long and hard. And the thing that came in my head was, I want to be an artist. So I told her, I want to be an artist, point blank. And literally next words that come out of her mouth. And I've always been consistent in how I've told the story because I remember it like it's yesterday. She says, you can't do that. And it just, I got fed up. I was upset. And then she was still going on a rant about how I need to find a real job and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I just got fed up with it. I'm like, you know what? I'm an adult. I'm 20 something years old. I don't want to deal with this. So I get up off of my bed. I'm like, I want to go outside. And she's like, you can't leave. And she holds her hand out. She holds her hand out like that. And like, you can't leave. And I'm like, no, I want to leave. I've paid rent to be in this room, you know, although not that moment, but I was paying rent to live there. Yeah. And I'm like, this is my room. I can leave it if I want. And she's like, no, you can't. You have to stay here and listen to me. And I'm like, I grab her by the shoulders, move her to the side, open the door, and I leave. She lost her fucking mind. She goes out of the room. I've never seen her face so fucking red. She's screaming at me at the top of my lungs. Don't you ever fucking touch me. You know, just like losing her mind. And then I go out to the, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not listening to this shit. I go out to the living room. My stepdad's there. He's sitting on the couch, just sitting there doing his work on his laptop, I think. And he's like, oh, what, you being an idiot again, Jordan? I'm like, nope, I just wanted to leave. He's like, nods his head, turns back to his shit, and I leave. Mm. And that was the moment where I was like, you know what? I want to be an artist. Mm.
That's interesting. We have how some of our stories mirror each other. Because I think we were talking about this, and you said you were around 22. You know, it was before you moved to Portland.
I want to, yeah, maybe I was 23. I don't remember the exact age I was. I know I was in my 20s at the time.
But I know for me, it was my story was that, you know, I was the oldest. I had my little brother who was 2 years younger than me. And then when I was 8 years old, my mom came into my room and was like, so you have an older brother and an older sister. Same mom, different dads. And I had no idea. I'm like, what? Really? And they're like, we're going to actually drive up to Seaside, Oregon. And my grandfather was running the Seaside Inn right on the beach. And so we drove up, and I got to meet my older sister, or my older brother and my older sister. And I remember a couple things happened. Like, one thing happened where my brother was drawing just on a white pencil and a white piece of paper. And he was drawing this like Cyclops character, and that was kind of floating and through the air. And one hand was up with two fingers pointing up, and one hand was down with two fingers pointing down. In the classic Baphomet kind of the way.
Yeah, if you look
Baphomet.
up Baphomet, is it Baphomet or Baphomet?
It's Baphomet, but it's a French word, so it's Baphomet is the way you spell it.
Okay, yeah.
And then he put some sigils and glyphs around it, like a pentagram and different things. And then he got up and took it and walked away. So, of course, I'm like, well, I need a piece of paper. And I grab a piece of paper and I start drawing this, trying to recreate what I saw.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, Rex comes back. My brother's name's Rex. He comes back and he says, oh, what are you drawing? And he looks at what I'm drawing. He just grabs the paper and crunches it up. He's like, don't draw what I draw. And I was like, what the hell? what's going on? Let's see. 12 years later, I find out he's a major Satanist, but whatever. That's another story for another time. And then he came to live with us for a year, and then he took off. And then my sister came to live with us when she was 11, or when I was 11, excuse me. And one day at the back table, she took a piece of paper and a pencil, and she loved horses, and she could draw horses really good. And so she starts drawing a horse. And, kids got really short attention spans, but I didn't even sit. I remember this like it was yesterday. I stood next to her, and I think she drew for a couple hours. And she drew a mama horse looking at you. And then there was a little baby, a foal down at her feet, kind of, in a little ball looking at you. And it was so good, like the veins, the muscles, everything was there. And then at a certain point, she just said, well, I'm done, and took the paper and walked away. And I said, there was a pause because it was so awesome what I just witnessed. And I said, I want to be an artist. Now, like a lot of people who are creative, there's people that, because I think young people are creative in general. But at a certain point, most people get caught up in a more normal life, a more safe life. I need to go to college. I need to get a job. And so certain dreams of being an artist, if you ever have one, a lot of times will just disappear. And so I said that to myself at 11, and I was always drawing. But by the time I was 20, I got married to your mother. And we had you, and, I'm working, and I'm in corporate. I'm working in a cubicle. I'm wearing a tie.
Yeah.
In a suit.
Yeah.
In the whole 9 yards. And you're taking a picture.
Gotta do it for the Instagram.
There we go.
Yeah, I actually I forgot to get my 360 camera.
Yeah, that's all right.
So I can take a better picture, but whatever.
But yeah, so, I was doing that, and then kind of the marriage kind of split up, and, I was, oh man, I don't know. I'm not going to go into this too far, but at a certain point, I went back to Los Angeles for a little bit, and when I came back and came to see you guys, she'd moved, called her, at her work, and she'd quit. And I didn't know where you guys were. So I was like, can someone please, this is my pager number. This is the time of pagers. And so I get a call back, and I think I was probably 22, and a very similar thing happened. She said the same thing. What are you going to do with your life? And I said, I want to be an artist. And she said, you're not allowed to be an artist. You're a father. And I think it makes sense. Like when you said, I want to be an artist, when you say, I want to be an artist to someone, they have no frame of reference.
Right.
I mean, they understand Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, and Picasso, and, they know who artists are, but they have no idea what it is to be an artist.
Right.
And then there are these kind of stereotypes around being an artist. You're broke. You're an alcoholic or a drug user, you're in crazy relationships, but broke above all else.
Right.
Now the art world and the art industry is a multi-billion dollar a year industry. So it's not like there's not money.
Right.
It's just that being an artist is so it's so different than what the normal person understands as a way of making money, that when you say I want to be an artist, there's like, what? All artists are broke. All artists are, losers, and that is not the way it is. That's one of those myths that, I'd like to try and dispel. But definitely I went through the same thing. But when she asked me what I was going to do with my life, I said I wanted to be an artist, and she told me I couldn't. And you're a Leo, I'm an Aries, so I'm very hard-headed. And if you tend to tell me you're not allowed to do that, just as a knee-jerk reaction, I will make it my life's endeavor to do the thing that you told me that I'm not allowed to do.
Right.
And so that kind of cemented in my mind, at least, that was what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be as a person. I had no idea how to do it, but I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And it took a long time. But I think I was still in San Jose. It was some years later, where I actually showed art, and then I moved to Oakland, and then I showed art in Oakland. I showed art in San Francisco, but was still kind of like, I wasn't sure how to really make it. But, those kind of stories, and actually, I'd love to hear from our audience. Like, if you are an artist and you want to be an artist, when was it in your own life that you can pinpoint, this is where I knew I wanted to do something creative?
Yeah, let us know in the DMs, or like send us a tweet or an Instagram message or Facebook message. Yeah. Let us know, because we would like to interact with you guys, and if you can send us some good stories, we'll probably read it on the next episode, or maybe later on. It depends on whether there's people listening to this that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
So, we would love to talk to you guys and get your input on that.
And from there, actually, we're going to turn the conversation to the next part of this podcast.
Right.
Which was the question of, what makes a good artist, or someone who's dedicated to being an artist? Is it an easy, supportive life, early life, where you can be creative? Because again, all kids are creative. Or do you feel that you kind of have to go through some hard times to become an artist?
Right. Well,
what do you think?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I won't rule out the idea that a person with a stable upbringing and all that, and good parents that raise them right, can be a good artist. Because I think good art can come from anywhere, no matter what the upbringing is. But I do tend to find that a lot of the artists or people that are creative minded tend to have had a hard life. They didn't choose the easy path, or they didn't. They didn't choose the easy path, whether it was they were born into a life where shit was just hard, abuse, drugs, just bad parents, being poor, all that shit, and then those people tend to, because of their upbringing, and just how they lived, they managed to experience certain things that people who are quote unquote normies, as people would call them, people who were kept in a box and, told to take the safe way in life. Because and I've experienced this too, where I've talked to people that have had, really, I would just tell certain stories of my upbringing, and I'm talking to someone who's a person who's had a pretty good upbringing, and it's like they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And you can tell, you can see it on their face, where it's they can't compute it, because it's they never dealt with it, So, and in my case, it's I wouldn't say I had the worst upbringing or anything like that. I wasn't molested or abused physically to the point I was black and blue. I didn't live in such a shithole apartment with cans all over the place or anything like that. But, I did deal with some mental shit and stuff like that, and it wasn't fun. And it definitely did have an effect on how I grew up, and because of that, it caused me to express myself and think in a more creative way. And I feel a lot of people that come from hard upbringings or, lonesome upbringings or, whatever it is, like a lot of the times what they have is themselves. So they tend to look inwardly and they kind of think, think fantastical thoughts. And where they look at the things around them and they kind of make art based on what they see.
Well, it's funny. I'm sitting here thinking about it as you're talking, and in a way, because I was raised in Irvine, California, nice house,
Sure,
kind of upper middle class. Although my dad had multiple sclerosis, so he went from a cane when I was really little, a cane to a crutch to crutches to by the time I was a teenager, being in a wheelchair. And his eyesight went and all that. So there was a lot of times where there wasn't too much interaction with my parent, and my mom would be working and my dad would be home, but he was doing his thing and I was doing my thing. But I think about, as you were talking, I was kind of thinking about certain people, like Angelina Jolie just popped into my head. And there's many people who had parents that kind of paved the way for them.
Sure.
Okay. So in a way, you look at, say, a person like Angelina Jolie and you're like, wow, her dad was an actor and, she had a kind of charmed life, I think, as I have never read her memoirs or anything like that. But it kind of paved the way for her to get into acting and do that. Now, I'm not, a big movie star,
right,
or a big, art star or anything like that. But in my own way, I kind of paved the way for you, because besides me, there's not a lot of, you could actually look at me and go, my dad is an artist.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like, yes, you did for sure, but definitely a good amount of the things that I came up with as far as like my creativity, I did come up with them on myself.
Well, yeah, and
but I did look at what you did and the art you did and all that stuff and saw that you were doing a job, like being a tattoo artist and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, there is a way to make money being an artist. So yeah, you're right.
That's
sure.
And I mean, even for anyone out there listening, you may want to be involved in some part of art, the art world, like whether it's movies, musicians, stuff like that. But the way to get into because there's people right now that are in the movie industry, and you know what they do? Catering.
Yeah.
Because they need food, There's there's the gaffers. They build, the things that the cameras and the lights go on. There's the lighting people. There's the sound people. So it's same. Like you could be like, oh, I want to really be in this I want to be in this rock band that's bigger than the Rolling Stones, but that might not happen.
Right.
But you can teach yourself how to record. And so next thing you know, you're engineering and producing for other bands. And so you're in it. You might not be exactly what you want to be. What the initial idea was might not be that. You could be in bands, but it might not be as big as, the Stones or something like that. But
right.
Yeah, I tend to think, that's a tough one. And we always come up with kind of tough things that get me thinking, because I don't necessarily think that you have to go through a hard life. I think going through a hard life. So for example, if you're, say, Angelina Jolie, again, it's right there in front of you. You can do whatever you want. And then when it's time to like work, you could be like, well, maybe I'd like to do a little acting. When you're a kid, you might not think about it. But when you get a little older, you're like, because everything's kind of there for you. Whereas, so that's one, situation. And she's a great actress. Then there's people that, because they had a harder upbringing, and I'll just say this, when I say harder, it can be as simple as just not being supported.
Yeah.
When you tell people this is what I want, and they're just shooting it down. And it's not even just people, it's the important people in your life.
Right.
They're shooting you down. Well, how are you going to make money? Well, I heard that starving artist, and they're trying to put doubts into your head.
Right.
And so that's kind of a negative. And in order to make it through these doubts that people are trying to put in your mind, you have to kind of become mentally strong.
Yeah. And
so it's that mental strength, because you're on your own. You have a dream. No one's there for you. And because it'd be very easy. If no one's there for you, it's very easy to just go, you know what? Maybe they're right. And you just give up, but it's the person that's like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. They're going to, because of their mental strength, dealing with, in the face of adversity, with people telling you can't do that, or that's impossible, or blah, 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 you carry on. And I think it's in that kind of being, I don't want to call it stubborn, but almost hard-headed, willing to do something even though people are telling you it's not popular, or it's not, it's not going to work out for you. You just keep going. You keep going. You keep going. And that's what makes a good artist. As a matter of fact, I'll tell another little quick story. When I got to the Bay Area of California, that's when I was really like, I'm, artist. Actually, I opened my first art studio, Studio Absu, 17th and Madison in Oakland, like a block away from Lake Merritt. It was awesome. And that's where I really kind of got my feet wet as an actual living, working artist. And, it was tough. It was definitely tough. But when you put yourself out there to do the thing, you know what, you're going to find the support. And the support isn't going to be the people you would hope it would be.
Right.
It might not be your brother, your sister, your mom, or your dad, or they might, those are the people that you would hope would be there for you. And they might just be like, dude, you're crazy. And so if you decide that living as a creative person, finding a career in the creative arts, and making a commitment, you're going to find other people that are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And that's your tribe.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to get your support.
And you might not find it immediately. It might take a while before you find people like that, but they are out there. Like, hell, I've met those people. Like my friend Jason, rest in peace. That I met in Portland. Like he was one of the best friends I ever had for the time I got to know him.
You've talked about him a lot.
Yeah, and I've talked about him a lot.
Very supportive.
Yeah, he was a very influential person in my life. Like just the kind of person he was. Like he was a really cool dude, very supportive. Like when I was talking to him, like when I was doing Zombies Call It a Knife Fight, which was a totally different, my first podcast ever. For those who are listening, way before I had any of this equipment, and I was recording with a shitty Logitech mic that was plugged into my fucking laptop.
Like 2014.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Like 7 years.
Long time ago. In fact, he was the guy who gave me. Remember those two mics I had? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gave me those.
Oh wow.
Those that I think they were the M Audio like USB mics or whatever. But yeah, they were. Yeah, he was the guy who gave me those. I told him about doing the podcast, and he's like, "Oh, can I do a podcast with you?" I'm like, "Sure." And he brings those mics, and we do a podcast with them. And then he's like, "You know what? You can keep them." And I'm like, "What? Like you really?" It's like, "I think you'll make better use of them than I will." And I'm like, all right, that's cool. And it was like, that was the first time I've experienced something like that. And the thing is, he's an artist too. So he understands the struggle. You know, this is a guy who like, he was like a solo, like guitarist deal, like singer, songwriter, guitarist guy. You know, he'll go on stage and just play with his guitar, you know, as they would call it, white guy with a guitar. But yeah, and that's the thing. Even he was not, even he had his issues, like unfortunately, and I don't think anyone in my past is going to listen to this, but unfortunately, he ended up passing from heroin overdose. Well, actually, it wasn't a heroin overdose. The story goes, and I didn't even know about this at the time. I eventually learned about it through his girlfriend, who I was good friends with at the time. I haven't talked to her in a long time. It's been a while, but yeah, the story goes, he got 3 baggies of heroin. One of them was cut with bad shit. He took the one with bad shit, and he fucking died. And yeah, that was a really heavy moment for me, and it really, you know, it was just a shitty moment. But regardless of how he went out and all that, like, because, you know, even just learning about his life story, like, it was really fucked up. I'm not even gonna go through all that stuff, but knowing the kind of person that made the shit that he did, you know, his creativity and what came out of through his upbringing, I definitely do think in a way that can make for good art. But I won't rule out, because not everyone needs to be a Nikki Sixx
Kurt Cobain
or Kurt Cobain character necessarily to be an artist. So yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, do you need to be fucked up mentally or have a fucked up upbringing to be a good artist? Not necessarily. Although I do think some of the most interesting people I've met have had fucked up upbringings. Yeah. And it caused them to view things very differently. Yeah. And it's because of that point of view that their art was more fuller, poignant. Yeah. And sometimes it would talk about shit that was dark and not fun at all. You know, in fact, some of the best art I've consumed, whether it be film or music or whatever, was shit that was real, like really real. Hell, that's why Fight Club's one of my favorite fucking movies of all time, because Chuck Palahniuk, the guy who wrote the book, which eventually became the movie, like the thing I like about Chuck Palahniuk, in fact, I need to read more of his books because very good writer. The one thing he was really good at, it was writing stories that are uncomfortable and writing stories that were based off of really raw, real things. And in fact, you can read this story at your own discretion. I would recommend you read the short story Guts that he wrote, which is on his website. That shit will make you fucking wince.
Oh, I gotta try that.
And because the way he wrote that story, I don't even want to spoil it because it's really uncomfortable. It's a really uncomfortable story because it deals with like bodily shit, bodily
fluids and things.
You know, like private parts and so so I'll leave it at that. But it definitely is not a comfortable story. But the thing I was surprised by was that he was able to write the story in such a way that it made me go, oh God, you know, like it's. But the reason why it worked was because it was raw, and it's stuff that actually could happen. You know, so it's like the way he used his imagination and was based off of stories he heard apparently, because apparently a lot of the way he writes his stories is he'll like hear other stories from other people, and so not necessarily just from other people, but he'll like come up with his own ideas and talk, go to a writer session and talk to other people about something he was writing or something like that, like an idea he came up with, and then people would go, oh, this reminds me of a story that blah blah blah, and they start telling him about a story, and he goes, whoa, that's fucking okay, I gotta write that down in my notes, you know. And next thing you know, something goes in his book, and it's, you know, it's like, and I like that. I like the kind of art that can be based off of stuff that's not necessarily comfortable, you know, and you know, it takes a certain mind for sure to be able to come up with something like that. And a lot of the people that end up tending to do shit like that aren't necessarily the most adjusted people.
Well,
but
they're willing to, I'd say, because of, you know, you do have to experience certain things in life to be able to think of things like that. Like,
Yeah.
although I don't understand what is up with Stephen King, but because that guy is the most nerdy guy,
Yeah.
you know, like in his off time, he like he does like mathematical problems when he's not writing, and he comes up with some incredible stuff. But you know, who else did that? Quentin Tarantino.
oh yeah,
One of my favorite movies was True Romance, and
I still need to see them.
you have not seen that movie.
No, I have not seen it.
You,
There's a good amount of movies I haven't seen.
we got to sit and watch that one. But there's a scene in it. I don't know. You might have seen scenes from it.
I think I've seen scenes from
So
it, but
there's the scene about the Sicilians, where he's like, "Oh, you're Sicilian." He's like, "Yeah, I'm Sicilian." He's talking to a mob boss. He's like, "Oh, yeah, Sicilians used to be like wops from north, like the north. They had blonde hair and blue eyes.
Okay.
But the Moors conquered Sicily, and they did so much fucking of Sicilian women, changed the bloodline forever." Okay, now that story actually came because he, Tarantino was, you know, raised around black folks, and I can't remember if it was if he was related to someone or his mom was dating someone. I can't remember, but he'd heard this story from a guy,
Right.
and he used it, which is, you know, it's like, I think people that are able to do that and push boundaries with their art, those ones tend to, not always, but they tend to have had to go through an interesting early life.
Oh sure. Yeah.
If you want to call it hard or whatever, it's just not normal.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not roses and white picket fences and all that. It's normally very hard. Perfect example. Great movie, 8 Mile, the Slim Shady story. You know, and he went through so much. Now he had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the music, the reason it's genius in so many instances is because of what he went through, and because the thing about art is that the way art touches people is that the artist creates something based on their experience of life,
Yeah.
and other people can relate
Yeah.
to that experience. So I don't necessarily believe that having a screwed up kind of childhood is going to make you a great artist.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes that just means you're gonna end up in a ditch.
Yeah. It could be. You
You know, with needles in your arm,
or in prison.
In prison.
or something
Yeah.
like
So
that.
it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a great artist.
You know, and sometimes again, you can live what other people would call a charmed life and still make horrible life choices.
Oh, sure.
Robert Downey Jr. Perfect example. I don't know a ton about Lane Staley, the singer for Alice in Chains. I don't know a ton about his early life, so I can't really speak on that. But I know he deteriorated, and it was, you know, he had everything.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the songs had to do with his drug addiction. You know, so I don't know where that came from, but he created incredible art.
Yeah.
You know, so again, to kind of recap, I don't necessarily think that you need to go through. Now, this is the screwed up thing, and do not do this if you're listening out there, because I've done this. there are these stereotypical ideas of what it is to be an artist. So, I've done it earlier in my life, and I know others have too, where as a young person, you hear to be an artist, you got to go through this and through that, and you got to do this and do drugs and do this. And so a young person's like, I want to be an artist. So they choose to do these things because that is, quote unquote, what an artist is. That's not true.
All it makes you is
You're a stupid dumbass.
that's what you are if you do that.
Yeah.
Shit. So don't fucking do it.
But it's the reason why we do this podcast are to talk about these things.
Right.
Because artists don't talk about these things. And if they do, a lot of times it's an artist that's made it through all the hard shit, all the mistakes. I used to think that, I would get a girlfriend and she was crazy or, kind of toxic. And I would just tell myself, well, that's what artists go through. Someone offers me a drug. Yeah, sure. Cause that's what artists do. And it almost ended my life, and you know about that, but it's, you don't want to get caught up in those kind of things where you're making choices or making decisions based on your desire to be something. So it's kind of like, I want to be a rapper. Okay, so I'm going to drink promethazine and smoke tons of weed.
Or scissor per.
That's what scissor
Oh, that's
is.
what that is. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to do this. And then you hear about artists that have overdosed and died because they're doing what they think is part of
whiskey and cocaine.
Being an artist, and they're great stories if you can survive it. Like,
oh, sure.
Sitting and listening to Lemmy from Motorhead talk, when he was alive, his stories, they're epic.
Oh, for sure. But even he would tell you, don't fucking do that shit.
Don't do that.
Don't ever do that shit.
Don't try and be me. There's only one Lemmy.
Yeah.
So
rest in peace, Lemmy.
Yeah.
Rock in peace.
So to all you listening to the podcast this morning or evening or whenever you're listening, just keep in mind, being an artist can be hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be a hard experience from the time you're a kid to your adulthood. So, pay attention to your decision making. Mm-hmm. Try and make good decisions. Don't put yourself on a road that can lead you to destruction. That's all I got to say about it.
Don't make stupid decisions like me where I spend all my money on beer and then just be totally broke for the next week.
Yeah.
And have no food and eat all his eggs.
Eat your dad's egg. How far are we into this one?
We're an hour and 5 minutes in.
All right. We're perfect.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to bid you all a fond adieu.
Yes.
We're going to get out of here. And I'm going to let Jordan give you the skinny on, again, where to find us and all that.
Like I said at the beginning of the episode, we have our podcasts on multiple distributions. We are available on pretty much all the major ones, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify. We also have social media pages. We have Facebook where you can, in fact, you can listen to the podcast there because the RSS feed goes straight to Facebook. So you can listen to it. Currently, it's on the app, apparently. You can't listen to the podcast through the Facebook website. I don't know why. I think it's just the way they designed it currently to works for the app but doesn't work for, I don't know, it's whatever, but yeah, you can follow us on Facebook. You can send us messages, ask us questions. Like I said, we would like to get your input on things. That would be awesome. In fact, if you send us a good message, we might even feature it on the next episode and maybe answer a question you have if you have any. And the same goes for Twitter and Instagram. You can message us there as well, and we will. I do all the social media shit, so I post updates, and when the episodes go live, I post the episodes there. We also have a YouTube page. I upload the video version of the podcast there too. In fact, I want to talk to you eventually about the idea of doing like actually having a camera.
Actually filming it
Again,
like,
because we did do that for episode 0, and I think we even tried for episode 1.
Yeah.
But I never posted that one.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I want to see about doing that.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And just as an aside, stay on the lookout. We're probably going to be bringing on some guests shortly.
Yeah.
Actually, the client I tattooed today, Mr. Ross Solomon, he's got a really good, high-paying job. But you know what he wants to do? He wants to be a writer.
Hell yeah.
And I talked to him about the podcast, and he was like, what is it? And he looked it up, found it. He's like, I'm going to listen to it on the way home. And he's like, maybe I could be a guest. I'm like, dude, I would love that. Because I would love to hear someone talk about their desire.
Yeah.
He loves writing. He loves telling stories. But life has taken him in the direction that he's been in. But he's like, I'd like to get back into that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We're going to bring some people on. We're going to be reading your comments on the podcast, so please leave a comment.
Again, all of those links are down in the description. It is in the bio.link/Crooke and Candle, all one word, no ampersand. Crook is spelled with an E at the end.
Yeah.
So there you go. So follow us wherever we're at, or listen to us wherever we're at, and we look forward to you listening to our next episode.
Yeah.
And we look forward to doing many more of these.
Yes, we do. Have a great day. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Have a good one. Take it easy. Peace.